Welcome back, handymen and women. We are trucking along today with the How Much to Charge series. Up next, roofing. So I'm going to go through my disclaimers like I do on every single video so nobody misunderstands anything I'm saying. Number one, work that requires a license, have your license, or don't do the work. Me telling you how much to charge for it as a handyman is not me telling you that it's legal to do it. It's just me telling you that if by chance you are legal to do it, here's what I would be charging. Number two, demographics. The whole reason that I'm doing this series is when I first got started, I went looking for information on how to price things, and it was absolutely impossible. Everyone's answer was one of two answers. First answer was, it depends. Not helpful. Second answer was, if you don't already know, you shouldn't be in this industry. Also not helpful. I'm going to give you the answers you're looking for. I just want you to know that it does in fact depend. You need to take my numbers, preferably start out beneath them, and then slowly work your way up. Bump your prices up little by little, very little by very little, over time. It's worth having the patience. When you get a little bit of pushback from some higher prices, bump them back down. Wait a few months, see if you can bump them up again. If you get some pushback, bump them back down. This is going to help ensure that your pricing is near the top of the acceptable window without being so high that they want to get rid of you. Number three, these prices are labor only, so materials will be what they will be. Everybody wants different materials. The prices fluctuate. It's just a whole separate issue on the materials. However, the labor is what I'm telling you about. It's how much you should be charging, and keep in mind most of these numbers I'm giving you, I'm not saying that you can't charge more. Quite often you can, quite a bit more. My numbers, however, are just intended to keep you from charging less than you should be charging, less than what I would think would be the minimum. And number four, these prices are for one-off jobs. If you're doing multiple jobs at the same address, there's a discount, generally speaking, for that because you have fewer trip fees, you're using less gas, you're able to consolidate and become more efficient with your processes. So with those disclaimers out of the way, let's get into roofing. So right off the bat, as with most of my videos and most of my advice all the time, I don't want to see y'all charging less than $100 an hour. Disclaimer there, yeah, if you got to start off at 75 or 80 to get your foot in the door somewhere because you're brand new, maybe you don't feel you're quite skilled enough, although I think you probably are, you'd be surprised. $100 an hour is kind of where you want to be. That's the fair area for you to be at, and then you want to try to work your way up from there. There will be times when a discount is applicable, because the job is just too easy. You can do that, rarely, but you can do that just to show your property managers that you're not trying to swindle them out of everything you can. So, let's say you have a flat roof and you're patching a leak on a flat roof. Generally, these aren't going to be wide swaths of areas. They're going to be very localized. What I do is I put 3 layers of fiberglass mesh along with 3 layers of siliconized roof sealant. It's very expensive, the siliconized. It's crazy expensive. But you don't need a whole lot of it per job. You buy 1 can one time, and then you charge for, let's say, a quarter of the cost of the can for materials for that job. And you've still got the whole can left over. You're probably going to use it 10 to 15 times for 10 to 15 different small patches. And you're going to charge materials for a quarter of the cost of the can. So you're going to make a little bit there. Don't worry. Buy the good stuff. But charge for labor $150 minimum. If you got up on a roof and you made a leak stop, that is always worth $150. You really should never be under $150, and you should usually be over. But for a very small, very simple flat roof patch with 3 layers of fiberglass mesh and 3 layers of siliconized roof sealant, $150. And then $100 extra for each one of them. So let's say there's 3 spots you need to patch. You're going to do $150 right off the bat for one. The next 2, add $100 for each one. Next is a shingle roof patch. And when I say patch, I don't mean painting some patch stuff onto a shingle roof. I mean, if you're going to take the time to go to a roofing supply place, find a mostly matching shingle that's very close, and actually get it inserted properly the way it should be, $200 minimum. If you're just going to be spreading some sealant around, you probably shouldn't, but if you're going to, $125. And lead to the next one, which is just sealing stuff. So this would be like sealing around where the chimney meets the roof, where vent pipes meet the roof, where the stand that the AC is sitting on the roof meets the roof. If you just see like some old cracked tar and other areas like that you're just going to paint over with new tar, $125. Tile roof. Now, for most tile roof issues, I'm going to leave that to roofers. Now, sometimes I get one where they can see that a tile has fallen or just moved out of place. It's not necessarily a leak. Nothing wrong with going and fixing those. In fact, if you go to most places that sell those tiles, they're going to give it to you for free. If you go ask them for one and you're a handyman, every time I've ever done that. Same thing with purchasing brick, like specialized brick. If I just need one brick or just need 3 bricks, I think one time I even needed like 9 bricks. And they said just take them because they want your business later should you ever need to purchase like an actual pallet of brick or block or roof tiles. But otherwise I leave those to the roofers, and here's why. Usually to fix those you're going to need to remove a lot of material. You're going to need to actually remove tile by tile by tile, working your way from the top down to get to where you need to be to get under there and fix something and then get them all put back up. Not always, but it does happen. They're very tricky. If you have experience with them and if you know what you're doing, I mean, by all means go ahead and do it. But if that's not something that's familiar to you, I'm going to suggest you do like I do and just let your property managers know when they send you a tile roof. Just say, hey, I'm happy to go look at this for you, but just so you know, I'm not quite an expert on tile roofs, and if I'm not able to fix it on the spot, if it's going to require disassembling a little chunk of the roof, I'm not going to be able to do that for you, and I will need to charge my trip fee for going out and at least attempting it, so it might be in your best interest to go ahead and send this to a roofer. They'll respect that. They really will. They don't want to send you out to do work that you can't do, because it's going to take you, maybe you schedule it for 3 days from now, and then you show up, and then you find out you can't fix it. That's 3 extra days the tenant's waiting for that leak to be fixed. So just be honest with them about those things. Next, hardware cloth. A lot of times they'll have birds getting into vents and stuff, and they want you to just make it so that the birds can't get in. The simple, easy solution is hardware cloth and metal tapping modified truss screws. So self-tapping modified truss screws. The modified truss screw has a nice big head on it that will grab around the 1/4-inch hardware cloth. It's self-tapping, so it'll go right into the vent. You don't need to worry about the little bit of water that might seep in through that and go down the vent. That's going to be extremely negligible, and you're going to put a little silicone sealant on the outside of that screw head. But that's $125. Keep a roll with you at all times. You're going to need it for multiple different things, also for crawl spaces and whatnot. So that's a piece of inventory you want to have anyways. Also, just as a side note, tell your property managers if the roof isn't in good shape. If you get up there, let's say there's a leak over the kitchen ceiling, and you get up there and the roof looks like shit, and you find the leak over the kitchen ceiling, you fix that leak. If the rest of the roof looks horrible, number one, if you find any other place that really needs to have it, patch that other place too. They're going to be okay if they send you for a patch over the kitchen, and you say, I patched a spot over the kitchen, and I found another spot over the bedroom. They're going to be fine with that. They don't consider that to be you adding on work without permission. It falls within the scope. But if the whole roof is in bad shape, let them know. You don't want them coming back and blaming you later because you patched 2 things, and then a month later something else leaked and they think that it must have been something you did. So tell them if the roof looks bad. Let's see, swamp cooler or condensation lines. A lot of times the swamp cooler itself is leaking on the roof, and a lot of times the condensation line coming from the HVAC on the roof is going to be disconnected or clogged and somehow or another dripping, or the AC itself, the actual HVAC unit that the condensation line is attached to. I've seen some where something's wrong internally and they're just dripping not from where the condensation line goes, which is that stuff that's dripping is supposed to go to the condensation line. So those are almost always going to be $125 if it's nothing too difficult if you're just patching something. However, as far as what you're going to charge, let's say it's the swamp cooler and the side panels on the swamp cooler just crusted over completely, and you need to get that thing to stop dripping water down onto the roof. That's going to be more time than you think. That's going to be like a half a day of your time to run and grab all the stuff you need, get up in there, your spider at the top that pumps the water out to the side panels, 1 or 2 of those is going to be broke off. You're looking at a half day. So if they're asking you specifically to look at a swamp cooler to like refurbish it because it's just sort of leaking water, let them know right off the bat that's probably going to go over the $350 limit if you have a $350 limit, but let them know that's going to be more expensive. Watch yourself some YouTube videos. There's nothing too complex. I think it'd be perfectly fine to watch one video and then go do it if it's a thorough video. But just keep in mind those can take you over the maintenance limit. And then with the condensation lines, those usually won't, especially if you keep plumbing supplies on hand. Like just keep some 1/2 inch and 3/4 inch PVC with you, like 12 feet of each one or 10 feet of each one, along with just a nice kit that's got all your attachments for it and everything. You can usually fix those up pretty quickly, like within an hour, but because it's a condensation line, because it's HVAC, because it's on the roof, because it's a leak, which is a safety issue for the house in terms of damaging the house, you can charge $200 to $250 for those. And fascia, I'm going to include fascia on roofs because I'm not really going to be doing a carpentry video, but fascia is the most common carpentry you'll be doing. And for those of you who don't know, fascia is where your roof ends. You have a 2x6 on the edge that goes all the way around, or a 2x8 or a 2x10, but you've got this nice piece of dimensional lumber where you've got your shingles here, your little metal drip edge, and your drip edge goes over the fascia. That board all the way around the house goes rotten frequently. I don't know that this is the case for most handymen, but I can tell you for me this has become very lucrative because what's happened is once or twice there were some very rotten ones that had to get done, so they sent them to me. I estimated a very high estimate for those, and they approved it and it got fixed. And I think the deal is, again, kind of like with the drywall, if you watch the drywall video, there aren't a lot of good drywallers and there aren't a lot of good carpenters that are freely available. The ones who are good are book solid, mostly with homeowners, and it's hard for property managers to get these at a decent price. So you can charge very good money for them. What happened with me was after I did one or two, all of a sudden it seems like every 2 or 3 move-outs when they're inspecting, they're finding at least a couple slightly bad areas in the fascia. When they send that to me for an estimate, what I send them back is an estimate to do all the fascia of the entire house all the way around. I break it down into you're going to need this many linear feet of fascia replaced. Then you're going to need this many linear feet of fascia patched and repaired, and then you're going to need this many feet of fascia simply scraped a little bit and painted. Each of those 3 have their own prices attached to them. So we're going to start off with replacement. So number 1, if you're replacing any amount of fascia, even if it's just 1 foot of fascia, 1 linear foot, $400. Yes, that sounds high. Yes, that is high. They can't find other people that even know how to do it, much less or will be willing to do it for $400. After that $400 minimum is met, so let's say, here's what we're going to do is we're going to do $100 a foot. So at 4 feet, that's your $400. But if it's 1 foot, it's also $400. Over 4 feet, real simple, $100 per linear foot. So you go around the house. I do suggest getting, I forget what you call them, it's a measuring device. It's a pole, and on the end of the pole is a little device with 2 wheels, and you push that along the ground and it measures for you. You don't need to get out your tape measure for these. You're going on ballparks basically. And you just walk, and you look up as you walk and you roll, and you just make sure that you account for everything. You get your total linear feet, and then you go back and you go and get all of the stuff that needs to be replaced, total linear feet, and then you go around again and you get the total linear feet of stuff that can't just be scraped and painted, that does need a little bit of patching and filling in. When you do that, you go and send them an estimate, but I'm telling you right off the bat, most houses, if you're replacing, it doesn't matter, say like 6 feet of fascia, you know, you've got like one that's a corner, you're going to do like 1.5 feet on each corner, so there's 3 feet, and then there's one 5-foot section somewhere else. That would be $800. What I found is even if all you're doing is painting all of the fascia, you're saying I'm going to scrape, fill in the major cracks. Make sure you say this, by the way, this disclaimer on your quotes, and I need to do a video for wording. It's going to take a while probably because there's so much to go over with how you word your quotes, but you always want to be very articulate and very clear. And what you're going to say is that we will fill all of the big cracks or the larger cracks. You want to imply that you're not filling every crack because you don't want them going behind you and seeing some sort of hairline cracks that might be going all the way around to the house and then saying, hey, you said you were going to fill all the cracks and I found a crack. So you're going to fill all the large cracks. Now it's up to you to decide what is large. And you want to give them a great product. You don't want to not, you're not using this as an excuse to not do your job. What you're trying to do here is just cover your ass and make sure that the Karens of the world out there don't go behind you and try to point out that you missed 2 little teeny tiny cracks. But anyways, just painting the fascia, just to scrape and fill the cracks and stuff and paint, just that for a 1,200 square foot house, I'm going to do $1,200 right off the bat. I'm not going to do less than $1,200. If it's high peaks and you're going to be on ladders a lot, straight up to $1,500 or $1,600. If it's a cut up roof where you've got like a roof here, but then back there, halfway down the roof, the house comes up again and there's another roof and another roof because they've tried to make it look really cool, those also straight up to $1,500 or $1,600 with no rotten fascia replacement. You're going to have to juggle these numbers a lot. You're going to have to play with these to see what you can get out of it. But for me, I always charge a minimum of $1,200, even if all I'm doing is just filling some cracks and touching stuff up and then doing a full coat of paint on all the fascia all the way around the outside. And finally, oh no, that was actually it. My next one was for only patch and painting the fascia. So there you have it. That's basically everything when it comes to roofs. There's not a whole lot going on up there. If you're going to do full home roofing jobs, that's on you. I don't price those because I don't do those. I would like to find a subcontractor to do those for me eventually, but it's not a thing that's ever requested of me to begin with. Oh, and I did forget actually one other thing. Coating an entire roof. So you've got like a flat roof with a white coating. If you're going to coat the entire roof, I'm also going to say $1 a square foot, but not under $1,200. So if the house is a 1,200 square foot house, you're going to do $1,200 labor minimum, plus materials. And when you do your materials, again, as I said, use that siliconized stuff, man. It is really good stuff. It's going to ensure that next year you're not getting called back and they're not saying, hey, we just paid you $1,200 to recoat this roof and now it's already leaking again. So use the high quality stuff, put it on thick. They're paying for the materials, not you. If they call a roofing company, it's going to be more and they're going to be booked out for 3 months. So get what you're worth, $1,200 a square foot minimum for recoating those roofs. That's everything I've got to say about roofing. Keep in mind, guys, anything you want to comment, any questions you want to ask in the comments, just ask them and I'll get you answered real quick as soon as I can, alright? So I hope y'all are out there killing it. Have a great day.